Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, your go-to source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We hope you tune in often for all things people management, organizational development and change, organizational leadership, and social impact related. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Michael McFall about his business philosophy of creating a culture of love in the workplace. Michael McFall, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thanks, Jonathan. Good to be here.
I'm so excited to have the chance to talk with you today. You have a unique perspective on running successful businesses that we're going to be exploring together, this philosophy of creating a culture of love in the workplace. So I'm really excited to have that discussion with you. But before we dive on in and get started, I want to share with the listeners a brief bio. So they can get to know a little bit more about you. Michael McFall graduated from Kalamazoo College in 1993, where he earned 4 varsity letters as a member of the golf team and bachelor's degree in economics. He also studied 6 months at Fora Bay College at the University of Sierra Leone, where he wrote the life story of Johnny Smith. Mike participated in the West Island College Class Afloat program in 1988 and sailed halfway around the world on a square-rigged tall ship, visiting 13 countries. Mike currently teaches on the subject of finding your venture at the University of Michigan Center of Entrepreneurship and is a hockey enthusiast with a lifelong goal to one day own the Detroit Red Wings. When Mike is not spearheading various business ventures or writing his latest books, he can be found in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and with his wife, Elizaveta, and their 4 children, Lee, Clava, Oscar, and Lorenzo. And I hope I got names correct as I was reading through those, or close enough, maybe. I hate it when I mispronounce names because that's so personal to people. So Michael, thank you so much for joining us. What an interesting background. It sounds like you're quite the adventurer. And I love your aspirational goal of owning the Red Wings in the future, and that's really kind of cool and awesome.
Yeah, to me, I was just having this conversation the other day. The Red Wings, to me, are the heart and soul of my home community, my hometown, and so I couldn't find anything more aspirational than that.
That's really cool, and I mean, it's great to be a sports enthusiast and have a dream like that. I think it's even cooler to just be so passionate about your community and wanting to leverage that as a way to connect people and to strengthen community. I think that's awesome. That's so neat. Well, as we get started, is there anything else you would like to share with the listeners so they can get to know you a little bit better, understand a little bit more about your background?
Well, I would say the only thing that I think is maybe interesting and relevant to this conversation is that, I've been building my company for 25 years, and I still manage it day to day. I'm still the co-CEO with my co-founder, and it's been a long journey. And the work we're in the middle of right now has really come to fruition in the last 5 to 7 years. And pre that, it was us just building a business, right, and figuring out how to survive and how to build a sustainable enterprise. And so, to me, I think it's interesting for people because I'm still in it. I was on conference calls all morning, managing my business, and then I cut out, and I'm going to come do this with you, and then I go right back. I got a meeting at noon with the group on something else. So I'm still very, very active in the business, even though I have taken on a few other things like teaching and writing and a lot of this work that we're going to talk about today.
Excellent. And I think it's wonderful when you have individuals like yourself with so much kind of boots on the ground kind of experience as entrepreneurs, driving successful organizations, but then also then leveraging your expertise to help others through the teaching, through the writing, through podcasting, through all these different avenues. I think that's great. And that's a sign of giving back and helping, trying to strengthen the profession and strengthen workplaces, not just at your own company, but in other arenas as well. As we launch in today, I thought really we could just start with you providing a really brief kind of overview of what you mean by a culture of love in the workplace. What is it, and why is it so important?
When we talk about love in the workplace, we're talking about an environment that is supportive of you as an individual and your own personal growth. And the idea is, it isn't personal growth from the standpoint of becoming more proficient at your job, a better employee, in order to make the organization more money. That the environment we're creating is one that is supportive of you developing your own passions and developing a life that you love. And we fully understand when we promote that means that there will be people that will leave us and go pursue their passions. And it's happened already a number of times. And when they do, we give them a high five. We wish them luck. We offer them any support we can provide them. And all we ask is they stay in touch with us and let us know how they're doing. And so the end result of that, we believe, is that when someone does determine through a whole bunch of different avenues and work that we promote inside of our organization, that our company, Big B Coffee, is the avenue, is the tool that they want to use to pursue a life that they love, that is going to be an incredibly powerful human being within our organization. And so that's the concept that we're creating. And, love is, I would almost like to have a different and more powerful word. Love's a great word, but it has so many different connotations and different meanings in different settings and different relationships. The kind of love I'm talking about is the kind of love that, a dad has for a child, maybe it's supportive. And, my dad was not necessarily the easiest person for me to get along with when I was younger. But what he was doing is he was creating an environment for me to learn and grow within, so that I would be able to go out and pursue my own life and pursue a life that I love, independent of him and the security of my family. So, that's the kind of love we're talking about, is this a really supportive, strong environment that gives you incredible feedback and has systems in place to provide you that feedback in order for you to grow and learn and become a more powerful person.
I love that. I think that is such a great vision for organizations to aspire to. It understandably, well, perhaps not understandably, but recognizing the reality, that's not really the norm in most organizations, right? You get bureaucratic organizations with top-down leadership, and the leaders are focused on a whole bunch of different things, and they're just trying to keep the doors open. They're trying to get keep people getting their paychecks, providing the products and services that the organization relies on to create revenue. And their focus often isn't on the people. It's not on creating those empowering types of environments and cultures and systems and processes to really leverage the capacity of people and help people be their true authentic selves and maximize their own potential. That's just not how most organizations are set up. And it's sad to me, though, because it really could be that way. It could be that way if leaders recognized and saw and caught the vision of what could happen when they invest in their people in that way. I often, talk to leaders I consult with, or with my students at the university. I talk about the different forms of capital that that organizations use and leverage to be competitive and successful. And you have financial capital, and you have intellectual property and capital, you have plant equipment, property. You know, you're an economist, you know all the basic Econ 101 forms of assets that organizations have at its disposal. And one of the most important ones that they have is their human capital. And yet organizations will, while they're so willing to protect and invest in and maintain other forms of capital, a lot of times they treat their human capital as this dispensable resource that they can just kind of churn through, and people, you know, come in and leave, and it's a revolving door, and they just want a warm body in the seat, and they kind of view them as a cog in a machine, as opposed to like a real life person with real life dreams and aspirations, with all sorts of experience and insight and creativity, you know, that they bring to the table to help the organization be successful. And it's just such a missed opportunity that so many organizations fall in the trap of. And particularly in times like this, where we're in the middle of a pandemic and organizations are worried about their finances, excuse me, they're trying to figure out, you know, how to ride out the storm. One of the first things that usually gets cut in an economic downturn, recession, or, you know, this kind of a crisis is investment in your people, investment in training and development, and paying a living wage, and, you know, just all of these things. So I love that that's your focus, and that you're helping leaders have that mindset shift, so they can see, you know, both the business case of it, why it's vital for a successful organization, but also the human case and why it's just the right thing to do.
Well, so even beyond what we were talking about there, you know, just a real simple linear argument goes like this: the leading killer in the United States is chronic disease. The number one factor in chronic disease is stress. The number one contributor to chronic disease is stress. The leading factor in stress is your workplace and finances, right? And so there's this progression of, you know, if we can change that, if work could be a place where you go to develop, to get support when you need it, think of that impact as well, right? So you're having a hard time with an issue in your family, and think if you could lean on your colleagues at work to help you through that, and be a resource to you, and, you know, and take care, maybe take a little bit of your workload off because you have to deal with that issue, and imagine if you felt supported, as opposed to in America, what happens is you're supposed to go to work and you're supposed to turn that off, and you're supposed to go in and be a highly functional employee, even though you might have a close family member, you know, let's say, dying of cancer. Well, we all know you can't go to work with a close family member dying of cancer and be effective. But the workplace, if it was supportive, imagine the impact that would have on not only that person, but that person's family, and the impact of the person with cancer they're trying to care for, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, it's just the cascading effect is extraordinary. So one of the things, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, certainly the cascading effect for that individual and their family and the people connected with their family is absolutely true. But also the cascading effect within the organization, because other employees, they see that. They see how someone is supported or not supported during times of crisis, and they don't forget that. So it can drive up employee loyalty and commitment. It can help other people within the workforce who, I mean, we're working, most of our lives are spent at work. And we want connection with the people around us. And what a human opportunity to connect with, and for me as an employee who sees a coworker who's struggling in that way, what an opportunity for me to have the chance to step forward and also be of assistance, but also recognize that they were supported in their time of need, and the company will support me in my time of need. The cascading effects are tremendous. And often it doesn't take a whole lot on the
No.
part of the leader to provide that kind of an environment.
Well, so it happens anyway. I mean, one of my best friends is a gentleman I worked with when I was 23 years old for 9 months. And that relationship, we're still very, very close friends today. And so, these things happen in the workplace anyway, right? We get these amazing connections, these amazing bonds. What we're talking about is just facilitating that happening and supporting it. One of the ways that we're doing that internally in our organization is we're setting up what we're calling forums. And so they are, 7 to 10 people, and you enter a forum, and they're all meant to be. It's not going to be people of your same experience and age and so on and so forth, but you can't be in a forum with, let's say, the person you directly report to, or someone that you oversee, and so on. And these forums are going to be sponsored by us. It's going to be work time and hours spent inside of these forums, and they are meant to be essentially support groups for you, not just in your work life, but in your whole life. And so that's one thing. I think we have 7 or 8 of those going right now, and the impact has been dramatic. It's just been dramatic. And so we're just going to continue. I mean, that's one idea of a whole bunch that we're working on right now. But that kind of thing, all of a sudden, these 6, 7, 8 people that you're in a forum with, they just become your thickest thieves. You do it together. You're doing it together. You're learning together. It's incredible. It's awesome.
That is great. Sometimes they're, well, not exactly what you're describing probably, but a lot of organizations will create like affinity groups, which are, roughly connections of people around different areas of interest. So kind of casual interactions, opportunities for people to connect outside of their kind of day-to-day work life, but still within the organization. What you're talking about is even a level up from that, where you're really getting people together, not just to kind of share an interest, but to share in support, to share in lifting each other through the struggles, of life and of work, and mentoring each other, coaching each other. I think that's brilliant, and a really neat thing to try to implement within organizations. What do you see as one of the biggest hurdles that you have to try to overcome as you go in and work with organizations and leaders to help them understand this concept and move in this direction?
Well, I think you touched on it earlier. I mean, it's really that leaders of organizations, they view their people as, your number one complaint that you get out of any business manager, if you ask them, and I should formalize this with some kind of a poll, but anytime you ask a business manager what their number one complaint is, the answer is people. And I just find that to be sad. And then you let them expand that, and it's, finding good people today. There just isn't the same work ethic today. There just isn't, and my statement is always, I promise you, there is nothing wrong with people today. What we have is we have a whole bunch of really, really poor managers out there and leaders. And organizations that are well led and well managed have great people. And so there's a direct correlation there for me. And so getting people out of this mindset that they're the population as a whole, and the people that they have available to work for them, somehow is not proficient, is, I think, probably one of the bigger challenges. Because if you can get to a mindset of people are pretty amazing, you just have to explore how amazing they are, and you have to let them be amazing. All of a sudden, that mind shift right there, it's an incredibly different way to approach your teams, your people, and so on. So, and I struggle in the world when I hear people who talk that way. It's just so limiting, and I wish I could flip a switch and get people to understand that there is so much out there within your own people that you're complaining about. They have so much potential that you just simply aren't unlocking.
That's exactly right. And it really is about letting go of power, which is really difficult for leaders who often they've had success by consolidating power, right? So that they have to learn to let go. They need to learn how to trust. It's about growth mindset rather than fixed mindset. And so if I truly see the potential in the people around me, and I'm able to let go of even just a little bit of power and delegate and provide some autonomy and give them a chance to earn my trust, if I can just do some simple things like that, then I can start to be amazed by the capacity of my people. And I can see their growth, I can see their development, and then I can be a part of that. I can be a part of that growth and development, and which is probably the greatest reward as a leader, is to see the people around you grow and become, far surpass you and grow beyond what you could have ever hoped for them. And you said it at the beginning, like sometimes that means they're going to develop and grow out of the role they're in, and they're going to even leave the organization. But that's okay. We'll be happy for them. They'll move on. The greatest corporations and the greatest leaders have a long legacy and genealogy of leadership. So you can see, you can look at the top CEOs across the Fortune 500, and you can map back to like where they got their start and who they were mentored under. What a legacy that is. And that's what we should be striving for. But it does require us to get out of our comfort zone a little bit, give back a little bit of power, give people a chance to earn our trust, and then great things can happen.
Yeah, just one quick story. 10 years ago or so, probably a little less than that, 7 years ago, the gentleman who was running my technology, he came to me and said that he wanted to go back to school and get his degree at the University of Michigan in electrical engineering. And he asked, could he work for me full time and do that at the same time? And I said, well, of course, it's like, holy cow, you're talking about going to this is a pretty demanding program, the electrical engineering program at the University of Michigan. And he said, I can do it. I will do it. I can do it. And so we let him move to Ann Arbor, which was an hour from our home office, and work remotely. And he did, and he graduated. And when he graduated in like 2.5 years too, by the way. The guy was a genius. And so then he ended up moving to Berkeley, California, because he wanted to work in a certain lab there. I don't remember what it was about. And he asked if he wanted to volunteer at that lab, and he asked if he could keep working for us full time. And all the while he was doing this, we were creating a point of sale system for our stores. And he was writing that. So most people would tell you or me that to create your own point of sale system is a fool's errand and you should never attempt it. Well, it took us a long time to write that. He was instrumental in getting that launched. And he ended up leaving us. He is now at NASA. Well, he's at JPL, which I always thought was a division of NASA, but it actually isn't a division of NASA. And he's working on swarming technology for submarines. Most leaders would have said, no, you can't run my technology and get a degree at the University of Michigan at the same time. Most leaders would have said, no, you can't move to California and volunteer your time and work remotely from California and never be in our office. The fact that I was willing to work with him through all of that, I ended up in the end with an asset that I'm not sure others could have built, that he built. And this thing is worth millions of dollars to me now today, right? It's an incredibly powerful asset in my organization. And he got to move on and pursue, his passions, his dreams, what he wanted to do. And it was just mutually beneficial. And what I don't understand is why leaders don't approach their own people like that. Every one of their people.
It's fear and insecurity, I think, is what it is. What a great story, though, and a great illustration of what can come of that kind of an approach. And it won't always work out that way, right?
Of course not.
But that's okay. It doesn't need to work out that way, because if we're consistently investing in our people, it has all sorts of ripple effects throughout the organization. And it's about becoming a learning organization and a growth organization. And that doesn't happen unless you invest in your people in that way. And sometimes it will come back to the organization exactly as you described in your story. Other times it won't, but you'll still have created that environment and that culture where people feel empowered and they feel passionate and they have the opportunity to innovate. So that's really what we need to be shooting for.
Yeah. And to me, that's all that is love. You know, you can define love a million different ways, but to me, that is love, right? I am supporting him. He is supporting me. We're taking care of each other. I'm providing him what he needs. He's providing me what I need. And you know, it's not a binary transaction where you show up to work and I pay you X number of dollars to do jobs A, B, and C. This is a limitless opportunity in the relationship between the two of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it has been a pleasure talking with you. We're about out of time, unfortunately. I would love to continue this discussion. Perhaps we can in
Anytime.
A future point. But before we leave today, I want to give you a chance to share with the listeners how they can get connected with you and learn more about you and your company.
We have something called the Life You Love Laboratory. It's called Life Lab. And there's a whole curriculum and a whole bunch of different tools that we're developing to help leaders and help people engage this way of thinking. It is brand new. It's not even a year old. But if you want to learn more about that in particular, you can call me on my cell at 517-388-1444, and I'll get you in touch with the right people based on your interest. Or you can email me, mike@bigby.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mike. It really, truly was a pleasure having the chance to talk with you. I hope my listeners will take the opportunity to reach out and to learn more about what you do and to think about this philosophy and how they can better support and strengthen and empower people within our organizations.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining me, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for doing what you do.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.